holding now in middle of Ois Hay by the base. Mitzadim din. As a darf sein mechutz lagimel machnes darf Ois kommen. So mitzad din that he has to be outside of 3 camps. Darf Ois kommen as the Azara boded Yeshev lavade Yeshev shloyeh tmei machem Yeshev imay. So this that he has to dwell alone produces an obligation which is really incumbent upon the person who has tziras. He has to dwell alone, separate from others who are similarly afflicted. Is boishel an andere suktemei temei meist zav mazavis aber nit mitzedem. But it does not come and speak about mitzedem. But if you say if it's a positive thing that he has to, it's more, I should say, responsibility. So then even a mitzera can't be with another mitzera. Only in this way he can be assured that he will not be involved in talks of lashon hara. So he said, there's 2 ways. There's going to be an afkamina between how you look out. So first the Rebbe said that it's going to be an afkamina lahalacha, and he says by Matzera, we know the din is kol yimei asher nega b'yitma boded yeshem mechutz meishavei. So you can say it in 2 ways. Like either you could say that just like Zav and Zava there's dinim, so also there's a din that by a Mitzeri has to be Mechutz L'Machanes. And then the Rebbe says that by Mitzeri you could say in 2 ways. He says the din klali, Mishalcha Min HaMachane, and why should he be Mishalcha Min HaMachane V'lo Yitamas Machaneim? So it's more mitzad the tumah that the others shouldn't get mitame. Or the commandment of Badad Yesh Mechutz L'Machane is a din miyuchad. And he says it will be a nafkimina. Lahalacha, if you learn the first way, V'yishalcha Min HaMachane, is that he should not mess other people over. So then, by him not being... so then, what do we say? Then we said... Right, so we said like if it's the first way, so then if the camps are not around anymore, so he's ice. Mashenkin, even if the camps are still around, he still has to din the tire himself. Okay. Vav. The Rebbe says like this. Kashem vidas im pshutem shanyanim shvalderech halacha as negoyim is an eis on avorung up to it and ayidin from lashon hara. So just like according to the pshat. And according to halacha, tzaras blemishes are a sign, and it's a warning to a yid to refrain from lashon hara. Und as oib is noch weiter reinzeugen geworden in dem bis as mishtana edevik story wird getan bepeil boded yeshiv im zu helen abschäden von sichas Hashem. So if he's like so habituated that his skin undergoes such a changes and develops tzaras, so he shall dwell alone, has to be mandated to heal him and separate him from Sichas Hashem. Al derech zeh, or nachmer, is mutlish v'pnimis inyanim. So this could be, in a greater extent, in regards to the inner dimension, the inner inyanim. So he says like this. He says, Mavor, in Likutei Torah, is explaining the Likutei Torah, as das was by the Goyim state Adam Kiyab Sarai, so the Alter Rebbe asks in the Likutei Torah, it says the pasuk uses a expression Adam Kiyab, when a person has a says like this: when a person has a color on the skin of his flesh, now it uses the term Adam. Now, the Torah Adam versus the Shem HaMayla for Nidin, there's 4 types of ways to describe a person. Adam is like the highest level. So you're talking about a guy who has tzaras, and what are you using the Lashon Adam? Person, which is like the loftiest term to describe another person. As well, the Inyan Goyim Mishayach Dafka by Einem versus B'Madregas Adam. Because the only possibility to have tzaras is when a person is at the level of Adam. Which is a very high and elevated level. Shlimu de kulei. It's like a perfect in all matters. So that's what the Rebbe says. The Tam Darfun is. So he says, what's the reason? Der Inyan going bar sorry weiß as der Rav was is great in them nega is nit seich in the previous dimension, because when a person has tzaras, it's basically showing that the bad that he has didn't actually permeate his previous. It only stayed on the surface. Now it says Pselis V'Rav is for Blibin Blazing and Chetzenis. It just remained in his Chetzenis, which is B'Seif Levushav, like at the end of his garments. The fire at Derfon Azay Oich in the Mesuvav Dema zu sein Siba Anega was is Narb or Psori B'Chetzenis Aguf. Therefore, the result produced by the Ra B'Fnim, like its cause, only a blemish on the skin of his flesh, which is the external dimension of his body. In other words, it's if you look at it the way the Alter Rebbe explains, yeah, he's a good person. He's an Adam. So any Ra that he has, it's just only on his external. The mitzvah the Alter Rebbe ich mevar for was mitzvahs negoyim is not bis manenu zachar chubrim mipnei shenim mitzuyim klau chuli ach ma'asen nisimim. On this, the Alter Rebbe explains and clarifies why the mitzvah concerning tzaras is not practiced in our time after Churban of the Beis HaMikdash, because the Alter Rebbe says they no longer exist at all, for they are achmais and nisimim, because they are like a miraculous matter. Yeah. So what does that mean? Yes says Eini benimtze bezmanenu. Azam mensch was hat in ganzen nit kein Rabbe Pnimi. So what's the Alter Rebbe saying? Since there's in our time, you can't find a person who has no evil at all in his, that there's no evil b'pnimius. Because even nowadays, when a person is at the level of a tzaddik and he's a good man, he still has some evil within his inner dimensions. Therefore, accordingly, in our time, the evil does not bring about tzaras blemishes. Because what's the tzaras blemish? Tzaras blemish is that he only has ra b'chitzenis. To find a person like that nowadays, like the Rebbe says, the way the Alter Rebbe explained, it's impossible. If he says noch musber dem tamanal, so these explanations actually provide and add a clarification for the svara explained above. As the inyan going over Parshas Tazria is techna inyan from Tazria. Why? Because what's the concept of tzaras mentioned in Parshas Tazria? That's the general theme of Tazria. We asked before, why would you name a Parshas Tazria, which means birth, if the entire Parsha speaks about tzaras? Because what's the idea of a tzaras? Tzaras is not Hashem is just punishing you, he's upset at you. The idea of a tzaras is that first of all, we punish the person because we want to make him a new person. And over here, what he's saying is deeper. The Alter Rebbe says, Adam ki b'sarei means that the person is who's at the level of Adam, his ra is only b'chitzenius. So therefore, that works.
Tzaras alone is a birth.
What?
Tzaras alone is a birth.
Oh, so that's what he says over here. So he says, now, what's tzaras? Tzaras in Tazria is that Hashem is giving a person tzaras. It's for the sake of conceiving something new and loftier. The meisenis and machter eberster b'chteas oich die chetzenis b'seis haraz on this barber and bayin. So why does Hashem bring about miraculous matters? What's the Alter Rebbe saying? That even the external residue that the person has also should be refined. It's beautiful. Okay, Zayin. Al pi zeh is oich mevor their shame from their tzveite seder. So now we clarify Parshas Tazria. Shaila is, what about Parshas Mitzera? She says like this: Mitzera chosh dort redt sich nit wie der Mitzera is b'matzav shel tuma, nor wie is b'tuyim tarosi. Even though that, if you look at, like we explained, Parshas Mitzera doesn't describe a person afflicted with tzaras as he's in a state of impurity, or rather, b'yem tarasa, on the day of his purification. The mitrit arois gebracht as taras oder fuas ha-metzora hamuvu eres bepashas metzora is nit kein besondere uftu, was wird nischadisch bloß mit tzadi pulos v'karbonas welche seine mevuren der Parsha, nor das als kommt bei Hemshech und als mesuve von die Inyanim mevuren Parshas Tazria. So, like this. The name clarifies that the purification and the healing of the person who has tzaras in Parshas Metzora, what are we saying? It's not a new development, something that was made possible only as a result of the actions and karbonos mentioned in the Parsha. Instead, this all comes about as a continuation and as a result of Parshas Tazria. Like we're saying, it's a hemshech. B'signan in other words, the pu'ulas sheba Parshas Metzora was tun oif. The tare bepeil. So these activities described in Parshas Metzora that bring about the actual purification. So he says, "Zayin blois mamshach megala das was is sich schön abgetan in dem Adam durch the tzaras gufa." So it's not like we said. It's not something new. It serves as like a catalyst to reveal the inner process of change that was already brought within the afflicted person by the tzaras itself. Okay, now, like we explained, as the refuas Adam beruchnius was das is the sibus tzaras is durch the tzaras v'hezger, which we explained that the purpose of tzaras was intended and comes about through the afflicted and the person being alone. That's what we said. Why, according to Rashi, that Asag holds that the Parsha is called B'yem Tarasi. Why don't we call it B'yem Tarasi on the day of his purification? Was volt ongedait as dafke da tutzich if Tarasi. If you would have said B'yem Tarasi, it's mashma that what's Parshas Metzora? It's a new thing that you're becoming pure now. So the Rebbe says no. The dafke Metzora was bring a race as das is at itself from the inyan from Metzora. What are you saying? Metzora. What's Metzora? Metzora is a hemshich, and it highlights that the purification is a result of the tzaras afflicted itself. You would think that person has a Metzora, and then he gets pure. He said that we call him Metzora because the purification is a result from the tzaras itself. Okay, hey, ches. So now we explained in regards to a person who's Metzora, just bepratis. Now he says you could explain this as a whole in regards to the Yidden. We Yidden are dwelling alone outside the camps where they live. We're mamish in Golas, there's no machnas. The Aveda for Yidden Zman Golas is an inyan from Tazria. So the Aveda of Golas is basically an inyan of Tazria. It's an idea of what does it mean? Azriya v'hechrich l'tzmicha v'aschola tzmicha v'zman from the Gula. This is a necessary stage for the beginning of new growth that will take place in the Gula. The Alter Rebbe sagt in Tanya, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, as the Gelu and the losses are in Talib and Ma'asinu, but the Sinu calls man Meshach HaGolas. Alter Rebbe says that the revelation of Mashiach is dependent on our action b'zman HaGolas. Why? Because the cause of the reward for a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. Let's say, as das was es tut sich oif, li meisem Mashiach tchis ha-mesim. Is dit kein bazundere Zach von der Golas? Which means that the revelation and that will be brought about in the era of Mashiach is not a separate entities from Golas. Nor das is die tzmicha. Was vax oist from the Avedas as ribas Golas. What's the Alter Rebbe saying? He's saying that the outgrowth, in other words, what sprouts forth from the Yidden's labor and sowing is basically Bisman HaGolas. When das is the Hira from the Shemus HaSedes Tazriya-Metzora B'Avedas Kolacha. This is also the Aveda, this is the Hira in the name of Tazriya-Metzora. A Yid darf lernen Teire Mekayim Zay Mitzvahs mit Kabbalah Soil, V'al Zay hat der Eberste geheißen. A Yid has to study and fulfill mitzvahs mitzat Kabbalah Soil because that's what Hashem commanded him. Can trachten as is kein nafki nit klal was the Aveda tutuf. So okay, if everything is Kabbalah Soil, so it doesn't make a difference with regards to what the effect of his divine service will have. So the Rebbe says is oif them the Hira. So now Tazriya-Metzora teach us that even though we have to have Kabbalah Soul, it's also as biyachdem and analysis b'ma'asim of the sin of Zman HaGolos that their head Whereas das is an inyan von Tazria, was bringt it tzmicha. That in Galus, our actions have to bring that we are sowing seeds that will sprout in the revelation of Mashiach. The Megillah Mashiach. Mela, as the Giluyim Delos is nit came bazundra inyan. So now the revelation of Mashiach is not a separate entity from Galus. Hamshach with itself from the Avodah from Galus. It's a continuation. Al derech Tazria-מצורע now. So we're saying like this: the Tazria is a hemshech. That Tazria it needs to be a Lada Chadasha, and a Metzera it's all one hemshech. It's a continuation. So same thing in Galus. The Tazria, a person getting tzoras, it's all the avodah of Tazria basically is dependent that the outcome of the Metzera. Tzmicha was come from the avodah in Galus. Test. And then Farbon for the Avodah was man Galus Tazria mit Bias Mashiach Metzera and Aber da Kama Yifanim. So there are several ways to relate to the connection between the Zaman Galus and Mashiach Zitkenu. Ava bi as jeder Yid is a Maimen in Bias Mashiach und is Mechakel Biosei. Was das ist you say from the Yisraelis Amunah and Velcha alle Yidden seinen gleich. So every Yid believes, as the Rambam says, every Yid believes in Mashiach. It's part of the principles of Jewish faith. Everybody believes in Mashiach, but there could be a difference in the degree that the coming of Mashiach relates to a Yid of who studies Torah and mitzvahs. I can't let him tell him Mekayim sein mitzvahs wissendig as das is Tazria. As das bringt Mashiach. A person could learn Torah and mitzvahs and he knows that my Torah and mitzvahs is what's going to be Tazria, is going to bring Mashiach. But his own personal avodah means nothing. Need to leave them learn their Torah and his Mekayim mitzvahs. He's not being Mekayim Torah mitzvahs because he wants to bring Mashiach. And Beis, art nit as the Geula vet zayin ashpat man. He doesn't care if Mashiach comes later. And as man shpater kriyas Metzera b'shavua b'fnei atzmi. Let him go ahead and the Metzera will be differently. It will come later on. Bis der andere der chas v'shom bagnugen sich und ist zufrieden mit dem was lernt Torah and is Mekayim mitzvahs and macht Israel if Gula. He's okay. He's happy. He's learning Torah. He's Mekayim mitzvahs and he's one day one day Mashiach will come. But life is good. If them is Torah, so what's their lesson? As B'rei Hashem zan di beide seders mechubaras and aklal gadol b'Torah ish al arif tidaber. When I didn't ikri balach the mice b'peil is as linen basaruba. What do we see? Most of the years Tazria and Metzera is together. This says that there zayin the chimur from Tazria and Metzera and Azir b'Shleima says Kivnei Yisrael umatum as mefir b'im arishin from der vach was b'shar yom from velcha vach and the emfer b'Parshas from the Parshas Tazria. What do we see? We see that it has to be in a way of Tazria and Metzera. That your mice and everything, all your mitzvahs and 10 mitzvahs has to lead to think about it. I want to bring Mashiach. Sein Avodah in Galus darf sein durchgenommen mit der ständiger Zepia und Sterbung zu der Gula. That his Avodah must be permeated by the constant expectation and striving for Mashiach. Like the Rambam says, I await for him every day that he comes. Das ist the Avodah von der Yidin Kol Hayom, the Hertes in seiner Kimat Torah mitzvahs, as thus bring to the Mamar Gula. So since every person was created to serve Hashem, a Yid's Avodah continues throughout the entire day. So during the entire day, he studies Torah and observes mitzvahs, and has to be permeated with the feeling that the Avodah leads and hastens the coming of Mashiach. Yud. How much longer is this? Okay, I guess we'll stop over here and I'll record it the rest.